Welcome back. I know it doesn't seem that long since we were here in January. So on that, Mr. Doyle, listening to your opening statement, it's not much different from what we heard before. All of the same issues remain: interest rates going up, inflation not falling quickly enough, access to land, all of these issues, all of which are outside of your control and mine. What is in your control is the viability issue. So can you just tell the committee, since our last engagement, in which you yourself said, and you said in your opening statement this morning, that there are ongoing issues with viability, what has your department done to address the viability issue?
In terms of, thank you, Deputy. In terms of the factors that are outside our control, as you point out, we try to respond to those as best we can by making alterations to schemes. We've changed, for example, the cost rental approach, in particular around the cost rental equity loan, for example. We've made a number of changes to how to flexibilities that local authorities have in terms of responding to cost inflation in conjunction with the Department of Public Expenditure and Reform. So just some examples in terms of just some of the adjustments that we have tried to make. In terms of viability, we continue to roll out certain schemes that seek to deal with viability challenges such as Creecona, for example. We are also trying to bring in a new cost rental viability measure, because cost rental started out very, very well in terms of the early projects, but interest rate challenges in particular have made the financial modelling that AHBs and other providers of cost rental have struggled to make work in the context of a much higher interest rate environment.
Why, like the interest rate? I mean, if a model is attractive, it's still attractive, albeit that interest rates go up. But why is viability an issue?
It makes it difficult to make the I suppose the maths around the scheme and how the scheme can.
Why is viability the issue with these projects?
It makes, what I mean by viability in that case is it means that the financial modelling around some of those cost rental schemes didn't work anymore once you moved into a much higher interest rate and a much higher delivery rate.
This is what confuses me. I think the reality is, Mr. Doyle, you've now discussed for 3 minutes everything that's outside of your control, and
but we have to respond to that, Deputy.
But the biggest issue with viability is densities, and you've been told time and time and time again, not least by me, but by every local authority, by every AHB, who cannot make the cost rental model work because of the density levels that you're imposing through planning policy. Have you changed the planning policy?
We have.
Have you lowered densities to where they would be viable?
We've published our new policy approach in relation to densities and compact settlements. We have
compact settlements. Now, you will have heard me for 3 years request lower densities. And what did you do? Who drew up those guidelines?
We've drawn up new guidelines. The department has drawn up.
And you decided to increase densities and spend $6 billion of the taxpayers' money. In rather than addressing and lowering densities, you've decided to throw $6 billion of the taxpayers' money at building apartments that aren't commencing because they're not viable. So can you show me or tell me where the cost-benefit analysis is from your department that justifies that?
No, Deputy, I'm referring to the changes we're making at the moment that's actually lowering the densities. Well, whatever you're referring
to, those changes are only finished public consultation and they're crap.
Right.
Simple as that. And that you'll probably find what the public consultation says. So what I'm asking you is, where's the cost-benefit analysis that supports the commencement that you say will happen of the 6,000 apartments that will cost the taxpayer $6 billion? Where's the cost-benefit analysis?
Well, Deputy, we look at all of these schemes, we bring them forward, we do it in consultation with other arms of government, we bring them We bring them to government
it's very
with the
simple.
proposal.
I can't afford to let you run down the clock. Can you show the committee the cost-benefit analysis? Can you submit it?
Are we specifically talking about the Pre-Clonagh scheme?
Well, it was announced in April. On the 25th of April, a scheme was announced where you're to spend $750 million that you believe will commence the building of 6,000 apartments where there's grants of planning, but they haven't commenced. I want to see the cost-benefit analysis, because let me give you my cost-benefit analysis. If you were to do what I've been saying for 3 years, as well as everybody that understands just how bad our planning policy is and where it is causing the hiatus in building, the cost-benefit analysis on reducing densities from 50 dwellings per hectare, for which you're insisting on in towns around the country, not just Dublin and upwards, but towns around our country, will see you'll have to purchase 264 acres in which to develop 6,000 apartments at a cost, in most cases, of 20 million per acre and upwards. That's on your 6,000 apartments. That comes to just 6 billion. Should you lower the densities to 30 dwellings per hectare and go around the country and purchase development land in Wexford at a cost of around 200,000 an acre, for 50 million, you could probably service the required extra. It takes 440 acres to build 6,000 houses. 6,000 houses, it would take 440 acres, and you could still do it for little or nothing in comparison to the taxpayers' money you're going to spend. So I can't see where we're looking at value for money here. I want to very much see the cost-benefit analysis that supports the proposal, because it was announced in April. Where's the detail? Where is it? It's not available. It's not available from the LDA. It's not on a government website.
Yeah, that scheme is in development, Deputy. It hasn't gone to government yet. So
you've announced you're spending $6 billion and you haven't developed the scheme?
No, are you referring to the new cost rental viability measure that we are?
I am.
We have been given we've been given an instruction from government to develop the scheme and to go back to government with it.
Who came up with the idea?
I suppose as we've looked at the issue of delivery of, this is specifically around the delivery of cost rental, cost rental is something it's not going to be delivered by this scheme. Like, you're not listening to what I'm actually telling you. Are you telling me that we have to spend $6 billion of the taxpayers' money to make cost rental work? No.
Well, that is what you just said. This is specifically around cost rental.
I'm not sure what the $6 billion is that you're referring to, Deputy.
By the time you commence 6,000 apartments, it will cost $6 billion. You're talking about 750 million into the cost rental. You have already said that you're going to see the commencement of 6,000 apartments. Well, that's what it costs. If you're developing apartments around the towns in the country, Dublin, Cork, Limerick, Galway, the apartments cost at least 100,000 more than housing. That's where the 6 billion comes from. 6,000 apartments at 100,000 extra over housing. You look very confused. My maths are going a little bit different, I think, Deputy. Is that not 600 million that we're talking about in that case? That's only for the extra 100,000. I'm talking about building on top of that.
Okay.
I'm saying for 600,000 extra, for 50 million we could build 50 million extra we could build houses, 3-bed houses around the country. You don't get that, do you, Mr. Doyle?
You can obviously choose to build. You can choose to build 3-bed semi-detached houses, or you can choose to build apartments.
Sorry, you're wrong. We can't choose, because the planning policy.
But from a policy perspective, you could, is what I mean.
So no, you didn't mean that. You said you can make a choice.
No, that's not what. Sorry, Deputy. I didn't get to finish the sentence.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, right. Rather than get bogged down, what I have been stating for 3 years, and many others, is that it's the planning policy is the issue. You can go away from the war in Ukraine, interest rates, construction, inflation. Nothing has changed, and nothing has changed since you were here last year, except the fact that you most certainly will not meet your targets this year. And if you do, it will be because you are wasting the taxpayers' money. So I'm asking what consideration you have given to changing the planning policy and reducing the densities down to what not only will make them viable, but affordable. And that is in the realm around the country of less than 30 dwellings per hectare.
Well, what we have done is we've published a new approach to densities in terms of new own-door type developments, for example.
Gardens, Mr. Doyle. Own-door is not the important issue. If you were to listen to what anybody has said, who's building, who's responsible for building. I mean, how many grants of planning have we for own-door that haven't commenced?
Well, this new approach was one that has been advocated to us for a long time.
By
from
who?
People from
Glenn Vey is who the minister
people,
told me.
From a range of people.
Well, the funny thing is I'm speaking to all the same people, and nobody has advocated your guidelines and what it has produced, which astounded me, because I was promised by the minister that the problem was going to be rectified. And when I received the document, I had to vote no confidence, because it's unbelievable that we are in a position where we are flush with money and can't spend it. And now the ideology of actually subsidising what's absolutely making no sense, affordable, viability-wise, in any realm, you're actually going to subsidise. And we're going to have to continue to subsidise it. So where's the value for money when it could be simply corrected by reducing the densities?
Well,
moving on with a policy that the UK moved away from 10 years ago. They stopped building compact development. Have you done any research at all, Mr. Doyle? They moved completely away from compact development, not least because of the antisocial issues that arose when they were completed.
Deputy, if you look at something like the Creek-Onagh scheme, it's specifically targeted at the cities. If you're talking about the expenditure on...
How many apartments are in the Creek-Onagh scheme?
We intend to deliver 5,000 under that scheme over a number of years.
Where?
Mainly in Dublin, Cork, Limerick, Galway, Waterford.
But this is the point. So how much will it cost?
That scheme, it may cost in the order of it'll be a number of hundreds of thousands depending on how
a number of hundreds of thousands.
Yeah, 500,000, 600,000. 500 million, 600 million in terms of the depending on where subsidies ultimately land.
You really haven't a clue, Mr. Doyle.
Oh, of course I
with respect.
Well, I am treating him with respect. He hasn't made an answer like to say hundreds of thousands, then go to millions. Like, you really don't know.
Sorry, that was a word tumbled out of my mouth.
Can you give me one Creek-Onagh scheme of apartments that you know of? One, anywhere in the country?
They haven't started yet, Deputy. We have the expressions of interest. We've gone through the various stages of due diligence on them, and there'll be an announcement in the next week or two on the first 3 schemes.
So where are they? You have that much information. What part of the country are they in?
It's 2 in Cork, 1 in Dublin.
2 in Cork, 1 in Dublin. And how many apartments are involved?
Okay, Deputy, we haven't made an announcement around that yet, but...
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you have made an announcement on the 25th of April, and I've asked you for the content, and you're telling me that the Minister told you to develop the policy. Isn't that right? To develop the content of what they announced on the 25th.
This is in relation to a new cost rental viability scheme, yes.
And where are we with that?
We're in the middle of working through that with our colleagues across government, with the Attorney General's office, etc. And we are hoping to bring a proposal to government prior to the summer break. So you're 3 years in office now, and you come in here and you make your statement, and in every statement it says viability is an ongoing issue, but yet we don't have a planning policy that addresses viability in any shape or form, do we? We haven't one planning policy, and if we do, I've missed it. You might tell me where it is. We have made, as I've said, we've made recent changes that will come through over the next number of months around.
So viability has been made a consideration in planning policy.
The issue of building apartments around
The question
other
I
than in
asked
cities
you,
in.
Has viability been made a consideration in planning policy? Viability is the biggest issue, is it not? You said it yourself.
Yeah, and
has it been made a condition?
So in this new change,
a consideration
in this new change that we're making at the moment, it is to try and make compact settlement not as dense as before.
I've read the guidelines, and nowhere in those guidelines is viability addressed, or has it become part of consideration in planning policy. Would you agree with that?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Has viability been made a consideration in planning policy? And
there isn't an explicit change that calls that out in planning policy.
And I think,
if that's
Mr.
what you're
Doyle,
asking.
you'll find you'll be back here next year not having met your targets.
Deputy Alan Dillon.